They say the first million is the hardest thing to do.
This is Elston. He just reached 1 million a year with a simple idea, hosting PDF, and he built it while working a full-time job.
Tiiny has 2 eyes because that was $30. The one with 1 eye was $300. That just shows you how lightly I was thinking about this. Tiiny was just a side project.
In this episode, Elston shares how he got 70,000 users a month on autopilot.
It's one of the best organic traffic channels ever.
How he built a 1 million a year startup without raising a dollar, and what it actually takes to succeed.
There's so many common patterns that you can just pinpoint. I see again and again about why some people are successful or not.
And I want to know that.
So today is a special format. We are going to meet Elston. He just reached, as you can see, 1 million ARR with his SaaS TiinyHost. And he told me that he was for a few days in Bali. So now we're going to take the scooter, meet him at his house, and I will ask him all the questions that I want to ask him. What if he's not here? Hey man, how are you? Good? Nice to meet you. Yeah. So Elston, thanks for having me in your place in Bali. You're here for a few weeks, right?
I'm here for a few weeks, first time in Bali. Beautiful little place. I'm glad I can record this in person with you.
Yeah. What do you think so far about Bali? Let's start by that.
I heard a lot of things. I heard it's full of influences, can be a bit kind of, vain and pretentious, but honestly, after a week, it's been a lot better than I thought. There's a lot of high quality people here. It's all the things you like from Asia, the convenience, the weather, the food, you can get and grab. Everything's 10, 15 minutes apart. And it's a great spot. I mean, I found a more quiet spot now, which I wasn't there last week, but I can see why people are here. I just got to find the right community. That's the harder part, I think, as we were saying.
So we are not here to talk about Bali, right?
Yes.
We are here to talk about TiinyHost. You reached 1 million ARR not long ago. I think it was 2 months ago, right?
Yeah, end of Jan.
So can you explain us what is TiinyHost?
Yeah. So Tiiny, a strapline is the simplest way to share your work online. So you can think of us as, a better version of Google Drive or Dropbox when you want to share work publicly. It's the power of the simplicity of WeTransfer, but the power of Dropbox. So I was really interested in very small, lightweight tools like WeTransfer, and inspired by that. But I always thought it was too difficult to put things online on the internet. So Tiiny is 6, 7 years old now. And it's basically a web hosting tool for non-technical people. So you can drag and drop, over 100 different file formats, and then you get a link in seconds. So Google Drive and, WeTransfer is one-to-one, we're one-to-many. And so you have a clean link. You can have your custom domain, customize your URL. There's analytics, password protection, and a lot of features kind of baked on top of it. And it's blown up. So yeah, we have had over 2 million kind of users signed up, and it's been incredible to see how diverse the audience has been, which makes marketing hell for us, but it's also a really awesome moat, I guess. So we have everybody from a restaurant trying to host a menu because they need a QR code and it's a PDF. So they drag, drop, and get a QR code. To now vibe coders. So we're getting a lot of traffic through people who, are building stuff in Claude or GPT, but have no idea how to put it online. So they get this HTML, and then they're like, okay, what's the simplest way to upload it? And we come up top, mainly because of the SEO work we've done for 5 years. And then they drag, drop, and they're like, wow, this is very cool. We spoke to a customer a few days ago, and she was like, I found Tiiny through Claude, but honestly, it looked too good to be true. It looked like it was a scam, and I was impressed. I mean, I think that's literally what we were going for, what we've done since day one. We want to simplify complex technology, and it's resonated with a lot of people. I think one of the successes of it has been, I didn't reinvent the wheel. I didn't try to build something groundbreaking, new. I took an existing validated industry and problem space, web hosting. It's been around 20, 30 years, and modernized it, simplified it, made it more accessible for another market. And that's been a success. So it's been very cool to see that slowly grow over the years.
Well, congrats first.
Thank
because
you.
That's a big milestone.
Yeah.
We'll go back to actually the step-by-step process, like all the milestones with TinyHost. But first, can we go back to your background? Like, what were you doing before? How did you start?
I am a software engineer, so I studied computer science, and then my first job outside of computer science was in a big bank, one of the largest banks in the US in London, and it was attractive from the outside. You had like these big office buildings, you had all these perks, you had a good salary when you're a student and you're student debt. But then after you spend like a few weeks and months here, you realize that this is basically going to be your life the next 20, 30 years. And the only difference is you're in a different seat where the director is, compared to what you're here. And I was like, no, I can't do this. I can't spend the next 20 years. I didn't work 15, 16 years to do this. And I think the reality is like, that was my first proper job. And I was always very creative and free-flowing. I was creating, websites when I was like 12, 13, very like lightweight websites to people. And I just like exploring and doing things on my own. I didn't think of myself as a entrepreneur or founder. But then I realized the only way to achieve, a career or life that I wanted, which was like being involved in a lot of things, like design and marketing and strategy, as well as engineering, is start your own company. There's very few jobs that can give you that flexibility, and in a big company you're like a small cog in a big wheel. And so eventually I started working on lots of ideas. Tiiny is my third or fourth idea. It was a long journey together. The first one made all the mistakes in the book, but then eventually found the indie hacking group, found Indie London, a good group, good community in London, super supportive. And I found all these people around me who are, making 10, 20K MRR. I was like, this is like more than my salary. This is like basically freedom. Let me just now like go solo, no founder, no investment, no co-founder, no investment, and just figure out how far I can kind of do something like this. And so Tiiny was just a side project. It was just a project where actually I wanted to launch something where the purpose of it was for me to learn marketing. So it wasn't technically complex. It took me like, 3-4 weeks to build a prototype. And then I was like, now I'm just going to spend the next few months marketing it. Because I got to a point where I'm a software engineer. I was technically capable of building anything. This is obviously pre-AI, a long while ago. And then I said, but I don't know how to get users. I don't know how to get growth, organic growth. This is going to be like a marketing exercise. And I even cheaped down the domain name. So Tiiny has 2 eyes, because that was $30. The one with 1 eye was $300, which in hindsight is not a lot of money. But now I've got the one with 1 eye as well. But that just shows you how lightly I was thinking about this. I was like, this is just kind of an exercise, and I don't know how this is gonna go. And yeah, the rest is history. It's been a really cool roller coaster, kind of surreal, basically. And still full of imposter syndrome, and trying to figure out why me. Like, why do I understand what's going on versus other people? But if you figure out and you dive into like why people's ideas are not working, or why people are not going down a certain route, there's so many common patterns that you can just pinpoint. I see again and again about why some people are successful or not.
And I want to know that.
Yeah.
Because you say that at the beginning you had a lot of failure, and you say you did all the mistakes that any beginner will make. What are these mistakes, you think?
The biggest mistake that I still see, which is crazy, especially if it's this very developer-heavy mistake, is spending too much time building product. So I think the first startup, I spent 6 months basically just building this product and thinking it's basically the best idea ever. When I was slowly showing it to people along the journey, and then they're like, wow, this is amazing. Like, when's it going to launch? I can't wait to use it. And I launched it, and no one used it. And there was just this like cricket pin drop silence. We put on the App Store. It didn't like blow up. And I was just like, okay, now what kind of thing. So that was kind of the biggest lesson. And then I think we also just had tons of co-founders basically. So I went around just telling people, I'm building this app, and so a lot of my friends were just like, oh, this is great, can I help out? And I was like, sure, come on board. And so we had like 4 or 5 people building this app, and eventually only like 1 or 2 of us actually doing anything. So that was a lot of friction. And then we were also chasing the YC, we were chasing investors. Yeah, there's just so much kind of friction and slow pace going on. And then also, there was one thing that came out of one of these kind of pitch competitions that kind of actually they were all right. We held on to our idea too strongly about what we thought the market needed. But really, it's about launching something, being flexible with it, and then building for the market. And so we held onto this vision of a product that eventually, some people liked it, never caught on to mass appeal. It was B2C social app. And then it was just, kind of fizzled out, the team. And then the next idea was B2B. We built like a really good, tech stack and a product for like a year, but we never figured out distribution, never figured out marketing. We had kind of, my co-founder had a family friend who was kind of, bankrolling the company. And so we had some kind of money, but we never really managed to get the business side going. So it's slightly better, but the key thing was still distribution there. Like never focused on really, getting it out there and getting people on board. And I see all these mistakes still being made now, unfortunately. Like people spend too much time on it, or they're trying to kind of create a groundbreaking idea, or they're like super passionate about something and they don't test the market with it. Or there's analysis paralysis. They kind of like spend so much time researching it. And then there's new things which I never experienced, but indie hackers seem to love is the whole like multi-product approach, which is like you build something, you get to 1K, great, okay, then just do it again. You build another one 1K, and you build another one 1K. And I get it. I think there's people obviously like Mark Liu and Peter Levels that do it, and that's a strategy, that's a lifestyle. But I honestly, and I think even Mark Liu admits this, like if you really want to go far, you should really focus on all in. But if you don't, that's fair. Some people really, like the lifestyle and the journey about building different products. But you look at the biggest companies out there, it's not because, Drew Houston from Dropbox had Dropbox plus like something else on the side. He was just all in on Dropbox and it scaled, right? Or Apple or Google or whatever. And so, for me, I've always been a lazy engineer, I'd say, which has worked well. So like the thought of like launching another product, now I know what it's going to take to get there, the marketing around it, just like, scares me or just like bores me. So it's much easier to just compound and invest in the same product. And then, that's how it's been. We've had slow, steady growth, I'd say. We've not had the growth in the first, 5 or 6 years as you would like expect, that you see on Twitter, with the crazy hockey stick growth and that kind of stuff. But we've had consistent, slow, deep roots being built.
Can you explain that, by the way, the milestone? Like, I think you started in 2019, right?
Yeah, so we launched, it launched on 2019, very small side project. Like you couldn't even pay for it. You couldn't log in. There was just like WeTransfer widget. And I went in with that same philosophy, right? I said, I'm going to create this and I'm just going to put it out there and I want to see, what people do with it. Let's just figure it out along the way. I didn't have any very strict like ideas for what it should be. And then my first users literally came from Reddit. So I spent a lot of time just posting on Reddit. These are the days where it was kind of okay. Now you just get banned.
Yeah.
But there were a lot more opportunities back then. And just being honest with it, I wasn't spamming Reddit. I was just basically saying, hey, look, I created this app. I think it's useful. What do you guys think? We'll love your feedback on it. And it was a really good place to get a lot of good feedback, a lot of things early on. And from that, posted on Slack and Twitter, and I got a lot of feedback in terms of like what people liked, what they didn't like. I added a paywall with features that people requested. So that was one of my things I learned in the past. And when people ask for features, you can just monetize with that. So people wanted custom domains, so I just added that behind a paywall. Or people wanted, a way to upload more projects, so I added that behind a paywall. And then it wasn't until ProductCon, like 6-7 months ago, later, where we got the first customers. And I still remember that. You always remember your first kind of money on the internet. Nothing hits better than that.
So TinyHost was your first time making money on internet?
No, it was first SaaS. I had another like small mobile app that was making money before, and then never kind of went big. This is the first like Stripe SaaS kind of thing what I made. But I still remember the first customers on ProductCon. And I was like, wow, people actually now want to pay for this. This is super cool. It was like $12. I think I remember the price. I originally was ambitious, and the price was like $18 or whatever. And I reduced it till eventually someone bought it. And then I was a big fan of like, if you can find one, you can find 10. You can find 10, you can find 100, and so on. And so at that point, I started focusing heavily on distribution, figuring out different types of channels. I met people in the community who said SEO was working well. So I tried, SEO, YouTube, Reddit, socials, just everything. There's a really good book called Traction, which kind of lists all the different types of marketing channels you could do. And it turned out in about 6 months' time that YouTube started organically working really well. And that was the start of the trajectory of organic growth for Tiiny.
What type of content were you doing on YouTube?
Sorry, not YouTube, SEO, but YouTube was working well as well. But with YouTube, it was just tutorials and how-tos. So the first video was like faceless. It was like how to upload a PDF online, or like how to upload a React app. Just tutorials and guides. And those videos are still there. I think YouTube is a very, very underrated channel. People still don't seem to invest in it, mainly because it requires a lot of effort. You need to be quite polished. It has a lot of time involvement in it, but it's one of the best like trust building channels ever. And because it's difficult to do, there's less content out there. And you're actually competing against like very low quality videos a lot of times. And if you just create a better version of what a video is out there, just like proper camera setup, a proper mic, or, a good explainer, you can get a lot of views. And it's evergreen. So it's not like TikTok or socials where it's like very short spikes. Some of my videos literally took like a year before they started organically ranking, and then they hit like 100,000 views. But it's crazy, right? You're waiting a year. So you're just putting a lot of these videos out and getting people to believe and understand and trust you, and then go and try. Like if someone watching a tutorial about how to do X or Y, there's a very high chance they're going to go in and try it. So it's highly converting as well. And it appears on SEO results. So it's a double-edged sword in that sense.
Just want to ask a question, because I know and I see on Twitter every day, people who start a SaaS, start an app, get like, let's say 3 customers, 5 customers, make like few $100, and then they give up, they go to the next product. And you say that you're a big believer that when you get 1 customer, you can get 10 and 100.
Yeah.
What is the mindset, or like what is the kind of action that you do when you have your first customer? Do you like analyze it, see like what kind of customer it is, where it came from, and go all in on that? Or you do what you just say, like you iterate on different platform distribution?
Yeah, I think it's mainly customer-based understanding. Like once you get your first 2 customers, it's really about finding out who they are and what they stand for, right? And so like we found that most of the customers that like us are non-technical, and I just wanted to understand more about who they are and where they hang out, what they read, what workflows they do, what's their background, what's their job, and building these like personas, right? Or ICP as they call it. And then from that is where you basically start to focus your marketing efforts. So it could be based on ads, it could be based on forums that they exist in, it could be based on SEO targeting. So we focus on like the jobs to be done framework, which is web hosting is a very broad kind of tool, but really people don't search for web hosting. They search for like, how do I upload a HTML file, or how do I upload my CV, or how do I upload a restaurant menu? And so we started making content and stuff for all of these different use cases. And just try to figure out as many different, angles that we could spin web hosting, right? And then we just started attracting lots of different groups of people. And so like speaking to your customers is really big, and just trying to understand exactly, who they are, right? Like put yourself in their shoes, and just go really, really deep on that. I think that's it, because it's very rare that you find one person. There's only one person in the world of that kind, right? It's you somehow build the most niche product in the world. I think it's near impossible that's the only person that's there. There's obviously some products which are more niche than others, so maybe you only find a few hundred or a few thousand, but there's not just one. There's never just this one. And it's just about, how do you find more? How do you unravel them? How do you basically figure out who they are and where they hang out, and then be there every time more people have that problem, or need a solution, or are looking for something, you're just there. And it's, for us, it happened to be on YouTube or SEO, right? We found that people just Google stuff, so that we're just there. So yeah, that's worked really well.
So you chose the boring path, boring marketing, which is YouTube SEO and SEO.
What's the fun marketing?
I feel like people are attracted to viral. They want to make one video that will bring them 1,000 million of customers and they retired. Like, I think that's how people think right now. But I love the boring path. Like, as you say, it's like something that compounds.
Yeah.
And you have to wait sometimes a year for your video to reach 100K. But if I remember it well, at one point you had, I think, 70,000 customers a month through SEO or something.
70,000 users, yeah. Yeah.
So show me the strategy. Like, what did you do? How did you find the keywords? Like, what did you do with SEO and YouTube SEO?
Yeah, I mean, people seem to think I'm like a magician at SEO. And honestly, I don't come from an SEO background. I come from a software engineering background. But I just spoke to a lot of people, understood what they did. And the playbooks are there. There's no like dark art strategy. There's no silver bullet. It's just time consuming, and people don't want to put the effort in. And so I think the first prerequisite is understanding whether SEO is good or not for your business. It's not good for every business. Some businesses have a lot more keyword opportunities than others. So using a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush is like super powerful. It's expensive, but if you're serious about it, you got to invest in that tool. And just like doing keyword analysis around it. So I searched like web hosting, and then PDF hosting, and then upload PDF on all the different kind of creative terms around it, and looked for their difficulty. So these platforms analyze all of these searches, and they give you an answer. They give you like a competitive analysis on there. So keyword difficulty and search volume are the two main ones. So it'll tell you like from 0 to 100 how difficult it is to rank for them. So you want something close to 0 as possible. And then search volume, how many people are searching for this every single month, right? And then from that, it's really about building content around that. So you want Google, first of all, to trust you as a website. It's like a chicken and egg problem. When you launch a new domain or website, you have zero relationship with Google, and Google is very cautious because there's so many websites, so much spam on the internet. And so there's something they call a domain rating, which is a vanity metric, but you kind of want to build this trust, and that's through, getting links from other people, other websites, guest blogs, but it's also just about producing good content. And so you want to create, landing pages and blog posts around the content. So if you take a topic like, PDF hosting, we created many different forms of content for that. So there's blog posts around it, there's landing pages around it, there's YouTube videos around that. The landing pages are very well structured, bottom of funnel kind of keywords. So people who are searching for actions like upload PDF or share PDF as a link, they're very kind of focused on clicking upload or next. The blog posts are more, around the topic, like, how do you share a PDF as a link? Why would you want to share a PDF as a link? Dense content, good high quality content. And then, just doing that for lots of different opportunities. And it's a bit of like, putting something into an oven and not knowing how it's going to turn out. That's literally SEO sometimes. Like, it's a black box. There's tricks, there's obviously good practice and stuff, but you don't know if Google's going to rank you or not. And sometimes, like, Google will rank you higher than websites that are already there, because Google's always looking for fresh and relevant content. So it's always testing things. The algorithm is changing every 3 or 4 months. They're changing their core engine, right? And so things are going up and down. So you actually have that opportunity to be kind of trialed and tested in those avenues. And it's patience game, right? Like you're like people looking for the short term viral videos, viral TikTok videos, $100,000. But SEO will take you at least 3 to 6 months to start seeing results, and even then it's like it's very baby results, right? And then it'll slowly compound. But it's one of the best like organic traffic channels ever. I mean, today we still get like I don't know, like maybe 100,000 plus kind of visitors to our SEO, right, every month. And so even with ChatGPT and stuff, it's still like the key kind of source. And yeah, we've kind of cemented our position there because of it. So it's a very, very useful tool, but it requires a lot of different, it's very technical, I think. So now now we have a small team. So we have someone who's kind of working on building links for us. We have someone who's, doing analysis, who's, keyword research and SEO analyst. We have someone who's writing content for us, who's writing blog posts and that kind of stuff. So there's 3 core people just working on that channel. And that's because we realized that that's our foundation, right? But you can do all that stuff initially. Like you can write the blog post, do the research, and figure out like what you need to do technically. I think the technical part is also a really big part that people skip on, like making sure your page is fast. It follows kind of, there's Google's kind of SEO technical standards. So like FCP, first contentful paint, all these kind of metrics. So you got to tick all those off. Google Lighthouse allows you to kind of put your website in and check. But just following all this kind of stuff, we'll get you there, and just wait basically.
You know SEO works, you just don't have the time for it. But every day you spend postponing boring marketing is another win for your competitor who already ranked number 1 on Google. Take this example. If you have a social media scheduling tools, then people will look for that on Google. They will search exactly this keyword, and as you can see, there is 3,400 people who are looking for this exact keyword every single month on Google, which means that there is 3,400 chances for you to convert these visitors into customers. And this works for any kind of product. People are searching on Google trying to find the best product in this market. And if you want to convert these people into customers, you have no choice but to show up in this zone. The only thing you have to do is to kickstart your SEO now, so it will compound over time. But I understand, you're probably way too busy trying to improve your product. That's why we built this trip. You just have to create an account, add your website, and we take care of everything. We write and publish daily content for you, build backlink from real businesses, so your brand shows up on Google and AI search. If you want to give it a try, you can click on the link in the description to get your 3 days free trial. Now back to the episode.
You started 0 MRR. I think you got stuck at $70 MRR for a while.
Yeah.
And you started to make decent money years after, right?
Yeah.
Because you were still working at your company while you were building TiinyHost. How long did it take for you to start the company to actually make enough money to quit your job?
I think it took about 2.5 years. I mean, obviously, I was buildings on the side, so I wasn't putting a lot of the effort in that you would have full time. And I think there's a lot of advantages as well, because when you do that, you're basically able to focus on the important stuff. You only have few hours in your day, right, to make things work, and so you can be super, laser focused on what needs to be done. But I think everyone has their own time they want to jump across the bridge. I think I'm on a more risk averse side. I wanted to wait till it was making enough and a little bit more to take that jump. So I could have probably left a bit sooner, but I wanted to be a bit more comfortable in there. But yeah, I had a decision to make. At some point, like, let it be like a side thing, or I went all in and just continued to grow it. And even then, people are like, "Do you really want to go full time on this?" Like family members or whatever. But for me, it was like, yeah, this was like what I always wanted to do. So I was like, there's no brainer in this. I just waited until like personal things aligned and took the jump. But it was, yeah, good 2.5 years. So I think I left around 8K MRR dollars, and then we just kind of doubled every year since then, basically.
So 8K MRR. What was the friction to go to, let's say, 100K MRR? Because I think the next big milestone was like 300K MRR, something like that. What were the friction between 10 and
ARR?
ARR, sorry.
Yeah. I think at that point, it really is about trying to optimize the product and just improve the product. I mean, there was a lot more content obviously we put out. Like I remember there was a pivotal point in Tiiny's journey where we had a PDF hosting. So originally we were just HTML hosting instead of posting, website hosting. And then I did a lot of, and this is, I think, that something that, I do really well, and I don't know many people do, but it's user-driven development. And that means like really focusing on how your users are using the products, speaking to them, but also like just observing the activity on the platform and then building more in that direction. So like I saw a lot of people uploading PDFs that have been converted to HTML and then using us. So I said, like, what if you just uploaded a PDF and then, it worked? And I built that in like a weekend, but like then the SEO kicked in, and about, 3-4 months later, that became one of the top use cases and just like unlocked a whole different like avenue of customers. So there was a bit of this kind of stuff. Now, features that we built that, again, we didn't have. So we had a QR codes, we had a ability to password protect. So there's a lot of these kind of building blocks. I think also we had a big leverage at the point we redesigned the website. So I hired a designer. I think now you really want to look good. I can tell when something's an indie project. When you open a landing page, you can tell when it's designed by Claude and stuff, and you just don't have that level of like trust in the product anymore. And so there was a massive design overhaul we had that kind of built more confidence in the product. And then honestly, it was just about doing lots of small tweaks and things. I saw a video, and hindsight is an easy thing to kind of say, oh, this was the right thing to do. But I think, just focusing on SEO, going deeper. We hired people and just went deeper and deeper and deeper into it, like made it into a proper team. But I think also just like, it's really, a really good strategy is just making minor improvements all over your platform. But if you make like 100 minor improvements, it actually accumulates to a way bigger change. And I think some people are looking for that, like that one feature is going to break out the product or it's going to be amazing. And sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's just tightening this up, making this a bit better, improving that experience, improving that, getting feedback and putting that better. and just iterating on that. And when you look back, you've made all of these changes in like 6 months or a year, and your product is in a whole different place. And a new customer comes in and like, wow, like I wanted this, this, and this, and you have it. It's like, you know, when you go to a product and you you find a feature that's like, wow, that's literally what I needed. Yeah. It's not because the founder thought of the idea and put it there. It's because someone asked for it before, and then they built it. And clearly that wasn't the only person in the world that needed that. And so it's because of that kind of journey and all of these, you know, users in the past who have basically helped you along the way, that you come up with this product that just seems like it's exactly what you needed. And it's basically because of a lot of work behind the background, right? And that was it. I mean, I think there's different ways that obviously businesses are being built. The Tiiny way has always been very slow, steady growth. We added consistent revenue every single month. We always grew, and that obviously compounded. And then more recently, like we've been blowing up because of the vibe coding space. So the market has shifted. It's really weird. Like when we focused originally, it was very much HTML hosting, and then we went to PDF hosting. We had 100 different file types, and now like HTML is back because like all of these people, there's a whole new audience of people now who produce more HTML than ever because they use Claude and Gemini and LLMs, and we're one of the simplest way to host HTML. Like you drag drop in 10 seconds, you have a link, and so it's weird having this full circle moment, but it's also the bootstrap advantage. Like if we were VC backed, we wouldn't have been deemed successful. We might have, you know, shut shop. But when you're bootstrapping and you have this technically infinite runway for the, you know, better or the worse, you can just hang around until eventually things align, right? And then you blow up, right? And it's a very underrated advantage when you're bootstrapping.
Yeah. I see like what you're exactly saying now. I see that with a few people. Mari from Tally,
yeah.
I saw that also Nevo with Posties.
Yeah.
That you are also remotion, like just you're waiting, you have a good product, and then something like a trend come, and the trend was agent, like, you know, AI agent, OpenClaw and everything, and it just explode because you're here with the good structure, the good product, and you just like plug to a trend, and it just like skyrocket your company. And that's a bit what happened to you, right?
Exactly.
How do you position yourself when you have the good product and you see a trend? What is like, how does your mind work?
Position in terms of marketing or
both, product wise and marketing wise?
I think one of the main things I try to do is build around the audience that's there, right? And then it goes back to user-driven development. And so we're actually, the company's kind of reinventing itself right now. Like, you know, Replit is some of these big companies in the AI space. And, you know, originally we still are the simplest way to share your work online. But what we're trying to coin now is what we call, what I'm calling like the DIY stack, or do it yourself. And there's a lot of people who are now empowered through AI and able to do things themselves, like, you know, build landing pages, build tools, build, you know, a habit tracker, whatever. And they're using a series of tools, right? It could be an LLM, it could be something helps design it, but then you need somebody to put it online, and we're kind of in the hosting part of that. And so that's how we're positioning ourselves now. And a lot of it is just really speaking to users. Like we're very in touch with users. We have at least, you know, two, 3 calls a week with our users. And we're listening and trying to figure out qualitatively what they're all talking about, you know, where they're from, you know, why they like the platform. And it's very, very obvious things. It was simple, it was fast. And I was just, you know, doing it myself, and I needed, you know, a tool to do it and just get it online quickly, right? And that's been it. So now we're positioning ourselves as this, like, you know, DIY platform, very simple, easy to use. And that's been, a really good differentiator to everyone else, because I mean, if you look at the engineering space, you have Vercel, Netlify. They're doing their own thing. They're targeting huge companies, startups. And they're very deep technical stacks. We've deliberately said, no, we're not going to go deep. We're just going to be like this. This is enough in terms of feature-wise. And we're going to be simplest. And to be simple means you say no to a lot more than you say yes, right? Because as we build a product as well, like every feature we add, there's a lot of inputs coming through. It's a struggle to figure out like how do you add this, make it visible enough, but also not complicate the product for the 80% flow that comes through. So, day one, it was literally like drag and drop, enter your email, click submit, and then you have a link. And that's still the flow basically now. There's a few kind of extra buttons to click, but that's the same flow that's there. And then there's a lot of other stuff around it that once you get familiar with the platform, you can kind of do. And that's just, how I've looked at it. I think I'd say I'm a product kind of engineer, and I really enjoy understanding how a user kind of uses the product, and we use stuff like Clarity and obviously user research to understand that. But it's really about, getting to know your users. And that's one of your biggest moats, honestly, I've realized more recently. Like, we've never focused on competition. Obviously, we look around the market and see what's going on, but it's never been like, oh, that guy's doing that, we need to do that. Because a lot of the insights that we've got, a lot of the roadmap that we understand is all built off like user-driven conversations. So I deliberately don't plan like what we're gonna do for like the next 6 months or a year. And this is the mistake I think people have made, and we've made in the past. I've made in the past. Is like thinking, okay, I'm going to build this, this, and this, because like vibe coding comes up and suddenly you're a different product, right? You need a different kind of set of features and tools. And so we've really focused on just very iteratively, like just understanding the market. And we have ideas, we put them in the backlog. Sometimes they're relevant, sometimes they're not. But we bring things out. And then eventually it just, every few months formulates into a product that's
I feel like it's really scary. A lot of things that you said right now is that you have to say no.
Yeah.
To, no to a lot of things. For example, you went to a blue ocean.
Yeah.
Like there was Vercel, really technical, big company. You made it simple. So you had to say no to this customer to focus on the simple kind of normie user. Then you have to say no to also check online what's happening on X. What are the new trends? What are your competitors doing? And you have to kind of close yourself from the people around you to focus on one thing, which is your customer and your customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
Kind of. And I feel like it's scary even for myself to do that, because you feel like you have a big FOMO of like, what are other people doing? What if I just do like my competitor because they are making money? How did you deal with that? Like to say no to all this opportunity and just like close everything and focus on what you need?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've honestly had a problem with that, because I think like the user, I've been very, very tied in with user feedback. And I think that's always given me the confidence when I've kind of built features. Like I remember, and sometimes we do very lightweight delivery of stuff. Like I remember when we implemented password protection, we didn't really have password protection. We had an input, we entered the password. I remember the first user that kind of messaged on support, and they're like, hey, the password protection doesn't work. And it's because we never built the backend for it. So I was like, okay, can you tell me the password and we'll set it for you? And he's like, hang on. So like, I tell you the password and it gets set. Do you even have this feature? I was like, yeah, don't worry, we have this feature. And so once we implemented that, once that happened once, I was like, okay, let's build out password protection. And then they loved it. And so like being lightweight with implementation, I think is good. So you can move quite fast. But I think, I don't know, in terms of competition and stuff, I don't know, just just being laser focused on what's inside, what's going on within your company than anything else. I think the FOMO is there. Of course, you can see people doing this, and that, but like just what people put out does not mean is technically successful a lot of times. It just means like their like punt or like their idea in that kind of space. And we've just always had that like level of growth that was moving. So I think we were also lucky in the product that we have, in the sense that it is a very universal product, and so it can be used by a lot of people, and so it's like a foundational product that can be used in different ways. So we never needed to, build loads of different features. We just find different audiences for the same product. It's just one tool that fits a lot of people. And then what I was going to say, but I think it's just about, like being closed off from the world around you. I think the FOMO could come from like, if anything, like FOMO comes from other products. Like I'm seeing like AI stuff come in here and there, blow up like 20K MRR in like a month. I'm like, oh, it took me a long time to get 20K MRR, and this guy got it there for a month. Like, should I just build that? That would be super cool. But then my laziness kicks in. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna start a new product. Let me just double down on this. But yeah, and it's been our moat, I think. Like, people come and look at Tiiny now and like, wow, that's an amazing product. Like, it's so smart. Like, you've got this, and this. Like, it just like fits the bill. And it's not because I woke up one day and just built everything like this, right? It's because, again, there's lots of different iterations, lots of different tweaks and enhancements. It's come onto this amazing product. And it's basically because we've focused just on, what people are telling us to do. And then that's it. Yeah, like Vercel have gone and built kind of a framework for this and that. Like they've got Next.js but these companies are also VC-backed companies, right? So you got to understand that they have a different agenda. They have a different trajectory. They need to really return crazy multiples to be successful. And when you're bootstrapped, you don't need to. As you can, iterate on that as well. And we're a small team, like, well, less than, 5 people now. And there's only so much you can do. So at the end of the day, you've really got to say no. Otherwise, you're gonna, be overwhelmed with so many bugs and features and things to maintain. And it's just not been attractive, I think, for me. So yeah, I think it goes down to the core principle as well. Like, if you can find one, you can find 10 to 100. And I think for me, like my North Star is always like, how do we find more users for what we already have? And it's not usually building more features. Like, or if it's features, it's viral features, right? Or like social features, like when someone shares it, there's some benefit to link back to Tiiny or whatever like that. So it's been those kind of things. I think that's been the main thing. Like I'm very, very clear on the fact that there's so many people in the world that still haven't found Tiiny, right? And that's not a product problem, that's a marketing problem, that's a distribution problem. And they come and go hand in hand, obviously. But really, I should really just be focusing on how do we get more people to understand or know we exist. That's really what's going to grow the business, not like building 10, 100 different features. Of course, it's fun. But you go like, are you building a business or are you building a site, a project, right? An app kind of thing, right? There's a difference there. And I think when you're building a company and a business as a developer, it's you got to understand, you got to make sacrifices. And I think people are not willing to make sacrifices sometimes, right? Spend a month on marketing versus a month on building. And that's why it never turns into a business. It just turns into this like cool product, but confuses people, or no one sees, the light of day for it. So you have to be honest with yourself as well. Like, what are you trying to build? So what are you trying to do here? And it's fine if you want to make like 10 different, like, 1K products, to get 10K MRR from that. It's fun, different strategy, but it's not the $1 million, project that if you haven't a mission to get to, you won't get that way. So I think it's about being honest as well, right? You obviously will have more fun on one days than the other. And now, like, my job is so different. Like there's so much I have to deal with in terms of, admin and accounting, but also obviously we have a team and stuff like that. I'm not building as much. I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm doing a little bit of everything. But some people, like, it's the worst thing ever, right? They're not coding anymore. They're not focused. They're not like doing the deep work kind of thing. And that's where you have to be honest with yourself, right? Are you going to enjoy being effectively a CEO in a role, or are you like a builder? Are you kind of in there? And there's different ways. There's one-person companies as well who are not doing super successful. But as you scale and as you grow, you're not gonna be able to focus on as much as you were in the early days. Your job changes all the time, and to me, it was always about like, I will do this until I don't enjoy the job anymore, and then figure it out. But so far, it's been interesting and exciting roller coaster. But yeah, it's problem solving every day.
So in an article that you shared on Medium, you said, aim to be successful, not Steve Jobs.
Ah, you found that article?
Yeah.
Wow, that was a really old article. I wrote this like when I was building like my first startup. Yeah, I made all the mistakes in the book. Yeah, I think that incorporates a lot of things. Number one is people seem to think that, you can just copy a playbook of somebody. And the reality is there is only one, Mark Zuckerberg, there's only one Steve Jobs. And the reason they are successful, and the reason the businesses that have been built is because of a lot of characteristics and qualities that they have translated to their product or their service or whatever. And you don't have those characteristics and qualities. There are things you can learn from them, of course, like how do you build simply or all this kind of stuff. But if you just try to be like a copycat and like very like, we're going to be the Apple of this or this kind of stuff, you're definitely leaving out your own qualities and personalities that you can instill in your product and your kind of vision. So I think there is something which is talked about a lot, is like there's PMF, product market fit, but there's also founder market fit. Mm-hmm. And that means like, what is unique about you that you can, translate to a company or product, right? And a lot of times it's having that domain expertise or that quality that, other people don't have, that gives you your edge. And it's different for everybody. And I realized over time, like for me, what I really love doing is taking complex products and simplifying it. That's my unique kind of advantage and what I love to do. And that's not easy, but it's just making technology more accessible and helping people use that. I mean, for other people, it's like they're really good at growth and virality, right? I'm not great at that. And so when they make something, they can, be very more like a social app or something that grows like, thousands of users very, very quickly. And that's the product that they should make because, they're good at that. But when you try to say, I'm going to build like, the iPod or like wear turtleneck and basically just be able to build like the most minimal product ever, you're always playing catch up because you don't know what's gone in the process to get to there. And because of that, you'll never really achieve that. And then the second big thing I think that I've learned more recently, and people don't talk about it enough, is when you're building a product, the most important thing is, I think in the early days, is to find a mentor who's just ahead of you. You can be inspired by some big kind of titans in the industry, but like what Steve Jobs, the problems that Steve Jobs is going through, or Mark Zuckerberg, or Jeff Bezos, is completely different to someone who's just starting out and building a product. And even if you read their biographies and what they did in the early days, the game has changed, right? It's completely different now than what it was like 15, 10 years ago. And so you need to find a mentor and idol who's just ahead of you, who's just figured out marketing, just figured out distribution, just figured out virality, rather than trying to see, like, think I'm launching a company. What would Mark Zuckerberg do? Would he go around launching in different schools and then different pilots? Because that's what he did in the early days. But it's not what you can do now. And I think that's a very important part, is just finding someone who's just ahead of you through a community. And I found that in London, who kind of just helps you along the way. And hopefully you grow together, right? So as they grow, you grow, because you're like kind of in this kind of trajectory. And yeah, being inspired by the big founders, but don't try to become them, right? Be yourself, because ultimately, and I realize a lot, is that a product or company is very, very highly tied to a CEO's personality and qualities, right? And so you just look at every big company and try to figure out the personalities behind the CEOs, and there's a very big correlation between them. And so you often look at a brand or product because it has this qualities, and there's a very high correlation to someone who's running a company. And that could be because they're really great at design, or they really have really good deep expertise in the domain, or they're really good at supply chain management, or they're good at virality. And so you will be successful if you harness your own qualities and your own talents, because no one else has that combination.
How did you do that? How did you find yourself? How do you know who is Elston?
Yeah.
How do you know what are your qualities?
That's a journey you just go through, right? There's no just sit there one day and you're like, okay, I'm that kind of thing. But I think it's leading into what you like and what attracts you and on the entrepreneurship journey, right? And so again, it's why you shouldn't copy things that go viral, or copy other things that are on the internet, right? Because you may not be the right fit for that, and may enjoy that journey. But if you focus on what you enjoy doing, like if you enjoy building social apps or whatever like that, or if you enjoy deep problems, like it could be like whatever DeepMind are doing, or really like deep AI kind of fundamentals, just keep doing that more and more, right? Like just focus on what draws your attention, what gets you up in the morning, what really inspires you to continue building, and ultimately you'll figure out like what your talents and qualities are. And people come to you and they're like, for us, they come to us and say, wow, that's so simple. And it's because I really enjoy simplifying complex technologies. And even if you look at some of the other previous products I've built, it's been quite simple solutions to different products, to different problems. And that's been my USP and my advantage. So yeah, it's a tough thing. I mean, you could ask people to say like, what do you think my talents are? Obviously, I think sometimes other people have better understandings of you than you yourself. But I think it's just about like pulling that thread into a direction that you really enjoy. So if you enjoy design, if you enjoy deep engineering, if you enjoy just research into a domain, just keep going there, and you'll try to figure out like what your unique kind of strength is around that.
And you say you have to find a mentor, like find someone who is a little bit like did the thing that you want to achieve, but he's not too far from you. So he's not Mark Zuckerberg, just like, let's say you're at 10K, the guy is at 100K maybe.
Even that's a bit far. I think if you're at 10K and the guys are like 30, 40K, yeah, like as close as possible, really.
How do you find them? You say community?
Communities, I think, are really big. It's probably one of the most undervalued things in building a building a company. I mean, this is the first time I built a company as part of a community, and you can see how things have kind of turned out. Yeah, I mean, there's Twitter, there's, being around meetups, being in Bali. I'm part of a community in London. There's Slack communities, just, messaging people, DMing people. I mean, also the advice for trying to find a mentor, the worst thing to do is message someone and say, hey, can you be my mentor? Because I think they take a lot of, they feel a strong, like not burden, but obligation basically to do that if you ask them. But if you just, message someone and ask them some questions, say, hey, really love some feedback on this. Can we jump on a call? And just like continuously start like, working with them. Yeah, they'll help you. I mean, I think most founders are very open to, helping people, the right people. But you have to show that you're doing stuff. For a lot of people will come and say, hey, I want to build an app, I want to do this, and they haven't really done anything, right? Like make progress, learn what what they're doing, and also just basically instill that feedback, and then come back and say, hey, like I tried this and this, implement that, but it didn't actually work, or like it did work, what do you think now, and that kind of stuff, or just catch up on those kind of bases. So I think that's really important. And it's a lonely journey, like honestly, like it's a long, lonely journey, but having a community is like having colleagues which are not your colleagues, right? You can go for a drink, you can complain about the same issue, the same problems, but at the end of the day, they're not colleagues. So if you complain, they're not demotivated, right? You can go back to your team or whatever, and then come back with a fresh mind and that kind of stuff. So I think that's important.
So do you want to be my mentor?
I want to be a mentor.
Now, my last question is like you shared not long ago in another podcast that 0 to 1 is hard.
Yeah.
And you would prefer right now to actually buy a company already making like 1K MRR, 5K MRR,
Yeah.
and then grow it. And my question is, what will be the first thing that you will look at in the company when you buy it to actually optimize it?
Yeah, again, I think it's a lot of founder market fit again. So like for me, it would be something that there's baseline things, like it has to have obviously some distribution and product that's there, but it's stuff where I know that I can improve on the design and make the UX and the product a lot simpler and easy to use. And number two, it's probably something which I'm familiar distribution-wise is SEO, right? So there's a deep SEO play here that I can execute on and make a really good job of. That's this person or this product or whatever has just given up on. I think those are really important kind of things. Yeah, it's like whatever you've learned along the way, how can you take that and just put it into this? And I think that's really the part where a lot of value comes from, and just get on the grind, because I think the 1 to 5 and 5 to 10, it's not as honestly as exciting as people think, right? It's a grind. It's a serious grind, and there's a lot of like bang against your head. Like, I mean, last year we were growing at like 3 or 4% month to month, and like this year we're growing like 20-30%, right? So it's a grind, and you're just constantly trying to figure out like how do you move forward, how do you keep going, how do you adapt to the market, and I think that's the main thing. So what can you take from your journey that you can kind of put in, like your playbook, your personal playbook, they can put in another product. And I think that's a lot easier avenue to get through. But like being an entrepreneur founder, I've realized along the way, it's just problem solving. Like it is all about solving problems. It could be how do you get your first users, or how do you debug this issue here, all the way to like there's an issue with the team, this person's not performing well or unhappy, or how do you hire the right person, and you're just constantly solving problems, and you have to fall in love with that journey, fall in love with that process. Otherwise you fail, because it's one of the most interesting jobs in the world, right? Because no day's ever the same, no year, no month. It's always evolving. It's hard, but it's also really easy in certain kind of milestones you get to. Like obviously, they say the first million is the hardest thing to do, and then everything's kind of easier from that. I don't know. But yeah, the first customer is probably one of the hardest things to do. And then you slowly get easier and easier. It never feels completely like straightforward, but you have to get into like a problem solving mindset. You're firefighting, you're always solving problems. And at a certain point, you're just like, okay, here we go again, kind of thing. Like there's times where you've just been DDoS at like 1 o'clock in the morning and nothing kind of phases you anymore. You're just like up trying to figure out how do you mitigate this, how do you move forward with this, or you're trying to figure out how to hire the best person or convince them to join your team, or you're trying to figure out your product roadmap. It's constant diverse problem solving. So if you want the variety of work, and if you want you enjoy just challenges, that's what it is. And I think you've also got to maintain this like normalized mentality, so you're not like really down when stuff is not going well, but you're also not like super happy when something goes amazingly well, and that can be good and bad as well, but you just maintain this consistent like emotions basically, where you seem just like like dead inside basically, because that's the best way to deal with this. Otherwise you just be on a roller coaster every single day, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's easy not to celebrate big milestones. It's easy to just also get kind of, I don't know, get down on stuff. But once you develop this thick skin and you just move forward with stuff, I think that's where you start to really get in the flow of things. And yeah, I think for me, it's one of the best jobs in the world. So it is the best job in the world, and there's nothing better about it. But it's not for the faint-hearted. You can't go in it just for money, or you can't go in it just for fame or whatever. I think you have to really like problem solving. You have to really like diverse problem solving and want an interesting, dynamic kind of job. That's it, and that's the way you're going to be successful with it.
Well, thanks for everything, Elston. I think that we have a lot of golden nuggets in this episode. So
right. Thanks for you did a lot of good research and found articles I didn't realize are still online. So.